Begin this morning in Washington, D.C. Congress has narrowly avoided a government shutdown, but the political wrangling on Capitol Hill continues. For months, lawmakers have been debating a massive spending package that, no matter the price tag, would help fund a long list of social programs for the next decade. Now, I spoke with Congresswoman Robin Kelly about her efforts to equal the playing field in the healthcare realm and how it could affect you. Congresswoman, thanks for joining me today. I know it is crazy times in Washington, but I do appreciate your time. Look, with all this attention to the Build Back Better Act, there is one common component, which is a lot of people don't know what is in the thing. And I want to spend a little time with you clarifying those things in it that are important to you. First of all, you're looking for this effort to reduce the inequities in the healthcare system for people of color. People may not understand that's part of it, so talk about that.
Sure. Well, one thing is that we're trying to extend the postpartum Medicaid coverage right now in most states. Even though some states are different, the postpartum coverage only goes to 60 days. But when you hear about women dying from giving birth, some before, during, but quite a few after, it's from the time of giving birth to 1 full year. And we get that from the obstetricians and the gynecologists. So we're getting it from, the medical professionals. And they said that it would save lives if women had the ability to go see their doctor throughout the postpartum period. Now, in the American Rescue Plan, we passed it if states wanted to do it. And luckily, Illinois stepped up to the plate first. So we do it here in Illinois. So my hat's off. But other states, some more states have stepped up, but all the states don't do it. So that's one thing we want to change, that they have to do it. The other thing we want to, there's 12 states that have a Medicaid coverage gap. So you may work too much to get benefits, but not enough to be able to afford insurance. And there's 12 states that did not take advantage and extend the Medicaid coverage gap. So that's in there too. And we're talking about millions of people, would have insurance, and many of those people are people of color. Right. That would be helped. So that would cover like 12 states. And then the other thing we're looking at is in Medicare, adding dental and oral and hearing at the same time, but we get a lot of comments about how expensive it is. I know that hearing aids can cost $5,000 or $7,000, and there's a number of people that cannot afford that, along with the glasses and dental.
So let's pull some of this apart, if I can, with you. You covered a lot of ground there. First of all, the postpartum coverage you were talking about, that was what we talked about that before. That was the MAMA Act, right? That's what we talked about.
Right, it's my bill, the MAMA's Act, right?
Yeah. Okay, so that is back. It comes in here. In the dental coverage, that's really interesting because I have to, having gone through this with my dad, I think a lot of seniors think dental is covered by Medicaid, and the problem with it not being covered is that a lot of seniors—
Medicare.
Medicare. That a lot of seniors feel they don't have the money to do it. They don't get the work done.
Right. And 71% of, in a report we saw, of African Americans got no dental care, and 65% of Hispanics, compared to 43% of whites who did. But there's still, in every category, there's still a lot of dental work, to be done. And your mouth is connected to the rest of your body. It has an effect on your heart health and different areas of your body. So it is important that dental care, oral health continues.
And I know that Senator Bernie Sanders is putting pressure on progressives in the House because those provisions you're talking about, very important to him. I'm not sure that what gets left by put out as a result of that. But let me ask you the general approach here, because you guys are working day and night there in Washington. Republicans, I think, have done a strong and good job of letting people know this is a lot of money, we can't afford it, and all the problems with it. It seems that the Democrats may not have been doing as good a job letting the American people know the kinds of things you just talked about. What is in this act? What exactly we are talking about? Is that a fair enough statement?
Yeah, I mean, we hear that they message better than we do, whether their message is correct or not. But we should message better, make it simpler. What we're trying to get across to people, like the 3.5 trillion, that's over a 10-year period. It's not next year. The if we are able to get the dental and hearing aids, that's not going to happen tomorrow. One will happen next year. One will happen 2 years from now. The dental is a little further off. So it's not that we're spending all of this money next year. And I like to remind people, they voted on the biggest tax cut for the wealthiest of people. So for some reason, we have the money to do that, but we don't have the money to take care of the everyday people that need our help, especially after COVID.
Well, what you triggered, there's a little bit of the debt ceiling discussion, which I think we should clarify for people as well, because yes, you all have the government running and the Senate also got through that issue. But with regard to the debt ceiling, which has to be raised in mid-October, we're a couple of weeks away from that. Once again, it seems, and I understand this is more of a Senate thing, but it seems that it's the plan of the Senate to have Democrats sort of own this debt, because people don't really understand that the debt that has to get covered, it's not all of this infrastructure stuff.
No.
It's the last administration and even the CARES Act, which was bipartisan.
Sure, it's money already spent, and we cannot not pay our bills, just like everyday people cannot not pay their bills without consequences. And so, and then also we have to look at how other people feel about us, that we're spending money, then we're not, paying what we owe. This is money the government has already spent. It's not new money, and it protects, the full faith and credit of the United States. It's not about borrowing more money.
Exactly. But let me ask you, you'd also see, obviously, Republicans' plan here is keep anything from passing here under the Biden administration. So I'll ask you the $64,000 question, or maybe the $3.5 trillion question, which is if these bills don't get through Congress and potentially even that initial bipartisan infrastructure bill, do the Democrats pay a price in 2022?
There's probably prices to pay all the way around. But the issue is that people see us, you're Democrat, even though they don't see we're only Democrat by 3 votes in the House. In the Senate, there's 48 Democrats and 2 independents that caucus with the Democrats. So we're even. So it's not as democratic as, it's better than it was, but we need some more help. And I do think that, if we don't get anything done, people will look at that like, you guys didn't get anything done, forgetting all the things that we have gotten done between, with the American Rescue Plan and different things like that. We actually have gotten a lot of things done.
Well, and that aside, what is not getting done is the Voting Rights Act. And we know that several states are taking steps to make things difficult for certain groups, though they deny that that's what's happening. But my question for you is, if Congress does nothing about the Voting Rights Act, you may not have to worry about the other things you pass in 2022, because the elections may be sort of shifting. Well,
they're starting now. My colleague Lucy McBath has been moved out of her district. Her home is no longer in the district that they want to put forth. So hopefully we can do something about that. They have my colleague Sheila Jackson Lee in Texas running against Al Green in Texas. They both cover a part of Houston. So the games have begun.
In fairness, by the way, Illinois does play some of those same games here under Democratic control.
Well, I say I believe in fair maps, but they're not going to be fair. And I don't want to go back into the minority in November 2022. So we need to do what we can do in Illinois to produce as many Democrats as possible. That's how I feel.
Probably what the Republicans are saying in their states as well. Congresswoman Robin Kelly, thanks for your time. I know you've got just an incredible work ahead of you, so I appreciate your taking.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
And coming up next on WGN TV Political Report.
And I know that it would be disappointing for me if Chicago Bears moved outside of the city of Chicago.
Even the biggest Bears fans might not want to open their wallets to keep them in town. Up next, the political backlash to a potential move to Arlington Heights. And later, America's Divide and Chicago Roll. We'll talk to the author of Wildland about tracing America's unrest to Chicago's history of political power and inequality.